At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jack.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another session of Focus on Liberia. I am your co-host, Gabriel Carter. Today I have in the studio with me my co-hosts, Alex Coffey and Jimmy Eastman. Today we are actually deviating from what we normally talk about on the marketplace. As you guys know, if you've been following us, we always talk about business, finance, and economics and everything that has to do with that, with everything in between. Today we are deviating from that to talk about an election forecast. As you guys are aware, the election is about 3 days away. And so today we want to dig into the voters' role from the election commission to really maybe give a kind of like an analysis, but try to predict, based on different scenario, who could likely be the next president of the country comes Tuesday, or if we end up going to a runoff after the runoff. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we are, as you guys know, we're data people, we're numbers people. So we made it a commitment to actually look at data. Data meaning that we took the voters' roll from the election commission, and we're going to be exploring that in different aspects and scenario. So stick with us. Again, we're not, I'm not an expert here, so we're going to be looking at this thing from the same way that you and I you will look at it, and any one of us will look at it. So as we always say, take the time, share, get a glass of water, a cup of tea or coffee or whatever you drink, or wateshi or ataye, share it for the next hour and a half as we run through this. And thank you for being with us. Alex, Jimmy, this is a very interesting topic. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Jimmy.
Here we are on the eve of the elections. Very exciting time. because it allows the Liberian people a chance to exercise their franchise,
Yeah.
express who they want to lead them
Hmm.
in the next 6 years. And I think it's also presenting an
Yeah.
opportunity for progress, for new things to happen.
Yeah.
So it's a very exciting time.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, and I think this is, as every election, this is one of the most pivotal moment in the history of the country. And the reason why I think it is because, since the end of the Civil War, we have had, believe it or not, the trajectory we thought we supposed to be on by now, we're not there yet. Regardless of what part of the aisle you sit on, or what part of the political spectrum you sit on, where we're supposed to be as a country, we're not there. Economically, politically, and as a society, we're not there. Regionally, globally, we are not there. So this is why I think this is one of the most important election in the history of the country. We can now do what we call a calibrate, to reset, to maybe put us on that path. My boss always liked to use this analogy. He said, when you first start, you can find yourself as somebody who's in the bush, and then from there, you can find yourself as somebody who's being on the dirt road. From the dirt road, after a year or two, you should be on the pavement where you're just going free flowing on the cruise control. For us, I think since the end of the Civil War, we have been stuck in the bush with cutlass in our hand. We haven't even made it on the dirt road yet before we even talk about getting on the pavement. So this election will be that important to say, okay, you guys have been in the bush with cutlass in your hand. Let me try to get you on the dirt road. Then from there, you can start putting quota down to now pave yourself a smooth uh, road to an economic place where you're supposed to be as a country. So this is why I think this is the most important election. So, and we have, what is it, top three or top four candidates in a race that are vying for that position. I know there are 20 other people, 20 candidates in total, but I think top four um, that we're aware of that are, could be, one of the people that end up becoming the president of this country, so of Liberia. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. Um, Alex, what is your first thought when you hear about the upcoming election? What do you think, and what comes to mind? You know.
Yeah, first of all, let me say hello to everybody in viewing and listening land out there. Those of you live listening to us and viewing us, and those of you who will listen and view us later on. Let me say hello to you, and let me apologize for my background. I'm on a trip. In the car, even though I'm not driving. Of course, I can't be driving doing this. So let me say hello to. Yeah, my view is generally, again, as you stated, we are here to discuss election forecast. A lot of this will be based on the data, historical data that we got from the NEC website, looking at the election in 2005, the results of the election, especially the first round,
Yeah.
not the second round, 2011 and 2017, and then also looking at the voter perception based on what is happening on the ground, based on what I mean. And again, at the end of the day, it's based on a lot of assumptions.
Exactly.
This is not a fact, but it's based on assumption. But that assumption is based on the data we have, the historical data we have, and how we've been following the election. Some
Yeah.
people would like to say sometimes crowd in Liberian politics don't play a factor. No, it does in terms of the voter perception. I mean, because from what we know, once there's too many people somewhere at a political rally, you see that most people attention shift. We saw that a lot. Because I don't want to talk about a specific candidate, but we saw that a lot. So a lot of this discussion would be based on the data, will be based on the voter perception and the assumption that we gather from that.
Perfect, Jimmy. Same question to you. When you hear about the upcoming election, as we are 3 days away right now, what are your thought process? Kevin, I think maybe you can pick it back on what Alex is based on the voters' perception, based on the data as well. But in general, what do you think in terms of about the upcoming election before we jump into the data that's available from NEC? What are your thoughts?
Data available from NEC. I think the data from NEC has been shortcoming, but in such an election that we see ourselves in right now, where the incumbent is also running, it is a referendum on his administration. It is the voters' perception of what he has done and what he can do in the future. So his administration, his performance is on the ballot.
Right.
That is what's on the ballot right now. And if it has been shortcoming, if it has not been to the voters' expectations, then they're going to look at the alternatives available to them. And the alternatives available to them, that is where the big question comes in. Because we have about 20 people, last time I checked, vying for the top position, for the seat. And that provides the voting populace a large variety.
Right.
And in the short amount of time allotted for campaigning, they have a very short amount of time to decide who might be the alternative to the current administration. So, as we've seen, there's some renowned names in the group, and more so, there's some formidable parties that have been around for a couple of elections now. And you'd expect a seasoned parties to be more influential than those upstarts, those new ones, because it takes a while for people to get to know you. It takes a while to understand the dynamics of Liberian politics, and it takes capital, and it takes several factors to gain momentum amongst the people. Right. So you would naturally expect the big parties to be a formidable presence in this elections, and we have seen that the UP party is one of those such presences. They've been around. They were in power for 12 years under the leadership of Madam Sirleaf. In fact, they've been around even before Madam Sirleaf. That they morphed into a unified party with a LAP, but the Unity Party, we all know, is the party of Kesali, and that goes back even further. Yeah. So this is a mature party, and as one would expect, their maturity is quite visible on how popular they are in this current elections. But there are some upstarts that also offered Liberian people, like the Cummings factor. Cummings, this is his second time running. At first, he was considered a newbie, a person just coming to the political scene. A lot of people questioned his ability to identify with Liberians because he was in the American corporate world for so long. He actually identified with the stripes and struggles of the Liberian people. Right. And so, but now he's going for another bout, and the things that they said before don't apply. Now they know who he is, but how much has he related to the people? importantly, you may have solutions, but you have to be able to relate that to the people, and they have to have that confidence to vote you in, to trust their future with you. And
Right.
that is his battle. And then we also have other very formidable, like Gonglo, a comrade of mine, back
Yeah.
in school, all in school together, and he's known as the honest, the upright person,
Right.
and the person who will reinstate legal, upholding the law and rightful obedience to the law, and people
Yeah.
looking at that. But his holdback is that he's recently joined the race,
Yeah.
and again, it takes time to get some traction.
Uh-huh.
So given all that I just said,
Yeah.
it's most likely that it might come down to a two-man race unless Cummings or Gonglo
Hmm.
can have a message for Liberian people that will resonate with them, that
Yeah.
they will be able to have that confidence to give them a chance to lead the way for the next 6 years. So
Yeah.
that is what we're looking to see.
Man, I think you could have been a political strategist with one of these people, man. That was a brilliant take. Like dissected bit by bit. That was brilliant. And I have to give you that. That was brilliant. Thank you, and thank you for providing that level of context and to that. That was very good. Larry, I know you just joined us, so we're on a forecast of the upcoming election, which is 3 days away, and we just started, so you're not too late. And the question that I'm asking before we jump into the data is that, when you hear the upcoming election, what are your thoughts? We have some data from the NEC that we're going to be jumping into right after that as well. But I just want to hear your overall thoughts about the election. If you want, you can talk about some of the candidates in the race. But overall, from your point of view, what do you think about the election? What do you think, um, Liberian, based on what are the crowd politics that is taking a hand? I think one of the things that you pointed out as well that I usually tell people is that you said that this election has gotten away from policy and is now shifted to the crowd politics, which is accurate. It's very accurate, right? So I want to hear your overall thought process in terms of what do you think about the election?
Thanks a lot, Gabriel. First of all, can you guys hear me loud and clear?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hey, it's so nice to be here. Jimmy, it's been a while. I've been watching you guys hold down the fort. Been doing a fantastic job on the show. So here's the thing with this whole election, right? If you look at countries like Liberia, you look at a lot of countries over in sub-Saharan Africa, with all of the resources they have, there's still a majority of the people today are still poor.
Hmm.
There's just a handful of countries that have managed to kind of leave that poverty zone. Places like Botswana, that's about 57 years old, gained their independence sometime, I believe it was in November of 1966 or something like that.
Yeah.
Those countries have made a change. And how did they manage to do it? They managed to do it by electing people that were servant leaders that came in, wasn't really concerned more about themselves, but more about helping to develop the country.
Hmm.
They had institutions in place, right? Because places like Botswana, before things like diamond and all that stuff was became the source of wealth in the country, they had some institutions in place. But Liberia, we don't have the institutions in place. And a lot of African countries don't have those institutions in place. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
A lot of countries in Africa, they don't vote on the issues.
Yeah.
Because if you were voting on the issues and you understood as to why you are poor, there are certain people that will never take leadership role in Africa. It just would not happen. Think about it. In which part of the world, in a developed country, would someone like a George Weah have a leadership position to run a country?
Absolutely.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And the second he came in, anyone who has some common sense, there's some people today who are now running on the rescue train or doing this and doing that, who were adamant that George Weah was going to be the savior for the people. You know, they felt because his name was George Manna Weah, they felt that bread was going to be dropping from heaven to feed them. But that never came true. It never happened.
Yeah.
They don't vote on the issues. Why are you poor? You ever stood back and ask? They don't vote on the issues. Now they're looking at crowd size.
Yeah.
It's so discouraging when you're looking at crowd size as a determinant in terms of who would be your next leader.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. If there's anything anyone should learn from the past, I would say maybe 18 years,
mm-hmm.
popularity doesn't necessarily mean the person is the most competent leader. Sometimes the most popular leader is not the most competent one. We kind of find that out, right? Over the past 6 years. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, she did a good job, but she didn't do a great job considering the amount of resources she had.
Yeah.
So right now, as it stands, this whole election, this is what I can tell you for a fact. Based on what I've been studying, based on research, based on analyses, I can tell you by 2029, I don't think Liberia will be any much better off than they are today, depending on who gets elected. Come Tuesday, we will get our first sense of who's going to get selected. But I feel that I don't think Liberians would be much better off come 2029. They would be in for a shock within the next 36 to 48 months. They'll be in for a major shock depending on who gets selected.
Yeah.
Because they don't vote on the issues. They're not really analyzing it. They're just going, you know, this person is popular. It is this person's time. We're going to support this person. We're going to come and do this and do. It doesn't work like that. And there's a reason why you're poor. You don't have jobs. You don't have a good education system. You don't have good health care. You don't have good leadership. And those are all some of the key reasons. They don't discuss these issues. One more thing before I swing it back over to you, Gabriel.
Yeah.
Where do you ever see a major presidential election taking place where the main candidates do not debate or discuss their policies?
Exactly.
It's unheard of.
Yeah.
George Weah never discussed his policies in the previous election. He won. Then everybody was kind of surprised that he didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
They came with a pro-poor agenda, which was more aspirational as opposed to a real plan. It wasn't a plan. It was all just dreams, promising 1 million jobs. Then later on, they started blaming the previous administration. Then they said, oh, they had 27,000 jobs. They still have no proof of how many jobs they created. They're saying the country was broke, but yet the president was traveling on private jet at the cost of $4,550 per hour. The country is broke, yet he can get himself to go to World Cup games. If the president was so good at his job, even as a footballer, Lone Star should have elevated on the FIFA ranking list.
Exactly. Yeah.
But underneath, Lone Star fell on the FIFA ranking list. That's how terrible this man was at his job. You know? So I personally don't feel that. And again, this is all just personal gut feeling, looking at the numbers, looking at the data. And those people who supported Weah, those people who were big supporter of Weah, today they're saying, oh, he was a generational, somebody. Right? Yeah. So they're in again for another shock. The election is the battle, but the war on poverty is going to be lost. So that's just my take on that.
That is a great way to end that. And I again, thank you all for sharing your perception and in terms of how you guys feel about the election. And so the next thing I want us to do is to maybe go over some NEC data that we have out here.
Gabriel, before you come into that, I didn't quite answer your question with the election. So looking at the election, I think. And looking at the NEC data over the years 2005, 2011, there's been a plus or minus 75% or lower 70% turnout always in the first round of the election. Last election in 2017, there was around 70-something % turnout. So with what is happening now,
voters?
Yes, of the register, we're talking about registered voters. We're not talking about the entire population.
Okay.
So there was about 70-something % turnout in the first round.
Right.
So with what is happening now, with all the different competition, with all the parties being energized, and then if you look at even the number of voters that are registered at 2.4%, which is even more, you see that there's a good percentage of that in the youthful, the energized population, and so there's from my thing that looks like there's going to be an increase
Mhm.
in the number of turnout from 2017. So you probably be looking around 75, 76, or even up to 80% of the voters turning out. Although the registered voter 24 million turning 2.4 million turning out.
2.4 million.
So yes, this election is by far more energetic, more than all the other elections that I've seen. That I've seen so far. The one I've taken part in and the one I've seen, it's more energetic. And from my point of view, this election comes down to 3%. When I did my analysis, I put the rest of the people in the other category.
Okay.
So this whole election comes down to between we are Bwaka and Cummings.
Okay.
Yes, you will have the Gonglos and the Monimba and the Nyanti, but anybody who's going to score anything below 5% of the total registered votes. Now, I put you in the other, they are 20% running.
Yeah.
But a lot of those people historically, you've seen this 0.00%, when some of them barely get 1% of the vote. A lot of them, about 15 people may get even less than 1% of the vote.
Yeah.
So anybody who gets less than 5%, so I'm looking at anybody who gets more than 5%, and that's between Cummings, and Bwaka.
Wow. That's you left out Gongolo. People, they're gonna come for you in the comment, but I'll let you to deal with that later on. Let's the Gongolo people will come
And
for
then,
you.
excuse me, I might be toggling, I might be turning my camera on and off depending on the situation, since I'm in a
that's fine.
travel situation. So I will still be on.
Okay, perfect. So let's jump into what we have from the NEC in terms of registered voters. Hopefully, bear with me here if I don't have the right slide on here. So this is eligible voter per magisterial areas in the country. We have 19 areas, right? So don't pay attention to the photo of Dennis on there. Just look at the photo row here.
But why you put a
I thought
picture
he
of
was
No, there's
I thought
an
you were really.
explanation behind that. There's an
Oh, yeah.
explanation behind that because he actually created it. So he, that's like him taking credit for it. So give him a pass on that. So if you look at Bommy, we have 63,000. I mean, you guys are looking at it. Bommy, Lower Bommy, 105. Bond County, which is Upper Bond, 120, 130 technically. Bapulu, 51. Grand Bassa, 158. Grand came out. So if you look at the voters row here, it seems like the higher what we call concentration is actually in Maserado, which is Lower Maserado and Upper Maserado, all over 300K. Lower Maserado is 341. Upper Maserado is 560,000. And then the next one up there in terms of the higher concentration of people, I would say is Luba, right? 195,000. So as you said, Alex, this is technically, if we want to round it up, 1.4, 1.5, if you want to round it up. This is a lot of people. This is a lot of people. Now, and we have, 20 candidates in this election running, 20 presidential candidates. And I think from Alex, from what I heard from you, you boil it down to I think three people that you think are going to be in the runoff. Based
No, two
on
persons are
these,
in the runner. Two persons are in the runner. What I mean is
two
those
people
who
in
are
the runoff, but in
significant.
terms of
Those who are
people that will make
significant in this election.
right.
More than
Okay.
those who will get more than 5% of the vote in my analysis. Those are the people I name.
Okay. So based on this, and I think this is probably an extended version of the question that I asked, but I want to add a little bit more twist to it. Based on these data, based on your own experiences, what you see, what the country is, what the country have been since the Civil War. Um, Based on you know what you think the voters should be paying attention to, and it's okay if you're partisan leaning on this question. You can. It's okay. This is what we're here for, and this is what we want to talk about. Who among all the candidates you think it's better, has a better chance of winning? Besides the three, I know Alex, you named three people in terms of who will make an impact, but besides that, who do you think is more likely, either based on the voters' perception, based on what we shouldn't have paid attention to, but now has become the mainstream, which is the crowd politics. Based on, you can even look at the economic side of things in terms of, hey, this person has a better policy, and I think they have a better chance of uh, of leading the country to where it needs to be. What Who as a candidate do you think has a better chance of winning? It could be Weah Boakai, the former Vice President Boakai. It could be Cummings, which I think Gonglo is a dark horse in this race. So I don't want you to leave him out. But based on all of this, who do you guys think stands a better chance of winning, based on how they have campaigned so far and everything else you have seen?
Yeah, let me take a shot at that. I know. I mean, I know Larry made a brilliant analysis of factors and stuff like that. But where we are now, we are at election, 2 days, 3 days to the election. So at this point, it's in the hands of the voters. It is not in the hand of all the different analysis we're making, who is better and who is not better, and who has the better policies and stuff like that. That is campaign page. Right now, we're discussing forecasts. So this is what we have at this point. And we better, as Liberians, we better now look into beyond this election, what happened leading up to 2029. How do we reposition our country, and how do we reposition, educate the electorates and stuff like that? And this has been an ongoing, where the voters are whether they're educated, whether they make the informed judgment. That discussion is something that we need to continue to have, position the voters in selecting the best candidate. But given what we have now, and to answer your question, among the three people from my analysis and and I've so right, some people think this election is going to go into, it's going to be on a first round ballot. I don't really believe that. I'm on the fence with that. Actually, there's a possibility, but I'm on the fence with that. So I think this election will be between. If there's a second round, it will be between George Weah and just Walker.
Okay.
I mean. When I say dissenter, I mean in terms of percentage. When I say dissenter, I mean in terms of percentage.
Okay. Perfect. That's well said. So you think it's going to be, and as I said, that's your statement. You stick with it, and that's your, that's your truth. You stand by that. So between former VP Boakai and the current president, Mr. Weah, so that is your take. Jimmy.
Yeah.
What is your what? Same question to you.
Do you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm going to look at it from a different perspective.
That's good.
I've seen other elections in Africa, and specifically Africa, where the incumbent is running, and I'm looking at Africa specifically because, just like Larry alluded to, we vote given, it's not on the issues. There are other things that apparently are more significant to us. Right. So I won't compare to a Western country or Asian country. I would look at Africa. Now, when an incumbent has been running in Africa, They have very, very few cases where the incumbent has lost. That is common.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm not going to go as far, but a lot of people, a lot of documents, a lot of literature support that there's manipulation when the incumbent is running of the elections. There's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of documentation on this. There's one recent time that I noticed an incumbent was running and he lost, and that was the Gambia election.
Yeah.
Not a couple of years ago. And what did we see happen? He refused. The incumbent refused the election results.
Yeah.
And refused to turn over power. It was only through the intervention of the ECOWAS, because he was isolated. Everybody was against him and said, no, you have to turn this over. And he was eventually had to leave le pouvoir. He had to leave the power and go. So, given that the incumbent usually doesn't lose, and there's only one time that I can remember that the incumbent lost and what pursued, I'm going to say that it's going to appear that we will have the a majority vote, or if the election commission announces anything to the contrary, and I'm not talking about the runoff. I mean, I'm not talking about before the runoff. I'm talking about if it comes to a runoff and then we go to the final. Then we will see a very controversial issue occurring, because it doesn't happen in Africa just like that. People don't just leave. So if Weah doesn't come out the plain victor, then we can see something controversial will follow. I'm looking at statistics. I'm not looking at it's not my personal opinion or anything. I'm just looking at how things have been transgressing in Africa.
Yeah.
They don't leave power. They don't, and I don't see it being it happening unless Liberia will be up first. Well, that's my opinion.
Perfect. Well said. Larry, same question to you. Based on what you know, based on what we are, who do you can even, I know you don't like the whole crowd politics thing, but based on the whole crowd perception that we have, and looking at the various candidates, you can even look at it from the policy side, which we don't want to look at. Who do you think is more likely to come out victorious in this presidential election?
Yeah, I mean, so
or who do you want to come out victorious? If you want to take that angle as well, I don't know if you want to do that, but who do you think will come out based on everything else?
So just based on perception, and perception is just your gut feel based on what you're seeing happening.
Right.
Throwing out issues and everything else that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
People always want to be on a winning team because people always like to believe there's something in it for them. So just based on perception, people will more than likely end up selecting the Unity Party. My feel, they'll more than likely end up selecting the Unity Party as opposed to going with someone like Weah, or because I don't think CPP had a true presence. They didn't do enough. I don't believe they did enough to really bring people that on their side. And people, like I said, it's like using a football analogy, right? People want to be with a winning team. They're not going to select a team that's going to be relegated, right? They will always try to be on a winning team. Now, bear in mind, there's what, 72 hours or so left before people actually go to the polls. But we don't have this sort of electoral college in Liberia like you have over here in the U.S., where you can have a popular candidate like Hillary Clinton, end up losing the election based on electoral college. We don't have that in Liberia. Liberia
Yeah.
is zero-sum game, winner
Yep.
takes all. So based on that and just the perception, I think United Party stands a very good chance of taking this election, but it's not going to be a first round victory because you have way too many political parties in the race. So based on that, there will be a lot of votes scattered, but it will end up in a second round where I think more than likely United Party now we're in the second round, but they will still have to tap on the CPP
Mhm.
to get them over the finish line. If United Party continue to distance themselves and fight with the CPP members might take that personal, and it may not even support United Party in the
Yep.
long run. And then this thing can totally switch over, because this is what people are going to remember. Josh Rihanna has a record. People will remember that the salaries were harmonized.
Yeah.
People will remember that the second they came into power, you had issues with money going missing.
Yep.
And then you had a whole bunch of people running around spending a whole lot of money.
Yep.
People are going to remember that right now, $1 is worth about 180 something, 187, 188 Liberian dollars. Every time the Liberian dollar falls in value,
Yeah.
it's a tax, it's inflation, it's a tax. That means you need more LDs to buy the same number of goods you are buying, or you need more LDs to buy the same or anything you were buying before. People remember that they're paying more for the same things right now. Gasoline, they're paying more. Their salaries were harmonized. We saw a lot of people going missing or dying with nothing happening out of it. We see issues of drugs and kush infiltrating the country right now. People remember all of that stuff. We've seen what happened
Yeah.
with Logos. We've seen a lot of things under this administration. We've seen a sanitation problem.
Mhm.
We've seen an incompetent, someone with no executive experience
Yep.
running the largest city in the country, and then hoping that the international community will bail them out, give them money for sanitation to clean up their own country.
Yeah.
We've seen all of these incompetencies. People will remember that. And I think it's because of some of those things that people will remember from this administration.
Mhm.
They will not hold United Party liable because people tend to forget. Liberians have the attention span of like a microwave. You know, they get hot on the most recent things. They don't remember
Yeah.
they will not remember all of the things that United Party hit them with over the
Yeah.
past 12 years. Because United
Yeah.
Party didn't do a fantastic job, but they will
Exactly.
remember the more immediate ones. So right now, I think it may end up being between United Party and CDC. But United Party will
Wow.
still need CPP to get them over the finish line. That's just my take on it.
That is brilliant. So we have two United Party, and that is a brilliant take. I didn't look at it that way. You're right. I agree with you. They're going to need in a runoff. They're going to need CPP to get over the finish line. Um, um, so, oh man, and again, I would say this clearly. I think I could be biased, and not I could be. I am being biased towards my perspective that I'm going to make. I think, in as much that I think that, based on the crowd perception, um, I think the Unity Party, if to be fair, I think they pull a better crowd than the CPP did in terms of, if you want to be, accurate here. Um, I'm not sure. I didn't see anything from Gongolo, whether he did the crowd thing or not. I think he did a lot of campaigning, but he never did a rally. Maybe they did, and I missed that. So in terms of the crowd perception, I think United Party has that upper hand in terms of having more crowd. Um, One of the other things that you mentioned, which I do agree with you on, is that we as Liberian, we have a attention span of a microwave, which I agree with you. If we didn't, we could have held the Unity Party feet to the fire for the 12 years and what they weren't able to do. As I said earlier in the show, we were in the bush with Carlisle said they're supposed to get her out of the bush with Carlisle said and put her on a dirt road. At least in that aspect of it, we could have, George we are, currently he could have continued us on that dirt road, to use that analogy. But contrary to that, I think there is two other factors here in this election. There is the Gonglo factor, who I think is a dark horse. He's going to I know a lot of people are expecting, the United Party to take most of the vote, but I think he's going to fragment that. He's going to fragment that aspect of it and take some of those votes from them. Now the question becomes whether, as for the CPP ticket, I think they have, given on what they do, if they really, you know, were able to convince the undecided voters, because we have I think nobody talked about the undecided voters category in this whole analysis, right? There's a big portion of undecided voters. Now we don't know whether that has shrunk based on the crowd, whether the crowd pooling was able to convince some of those voters to choose parties or not, or that percentage of the crowd voter of the undecided voter is still large. It becomes who was able to convince most of the undecided voters to to pick a party, right? In addition to that, we also have the silent voters. So I don't want us to just be swayed by the crowd and everything. There's a lot of silent voters here, the silent majority or the silent minority in Liberia. We call them the intelligentsia, if you guys want to call them that. Those are not the people you see in the street, you know, carrying placard and running behind candidates with all these rallies. These are people who are well informed, who made their decision, but they are not out there in the crowd. So those are the factors I want you guys to look at. In addition, and based on that, I think Cumming has a very good pool with with the uh, the silent voters. You know, that's one. The second thing is I said earlier is the dark horse race, right? Which is Gonglo. I believe if Cumming is able to get to the second round, I mean, if he's able to get in the second round, I think he will be able to convince Gonglo to join him. And I think other people within the collaborating party, the other political party within the CPP, were able to endorse him as well. Now, in addition to that, here's the thing I want you guys to be aware of. There's a second dark horse in this. I know people don't like to talk about her a lot, but there's the Ellen factor. There's the Ellen factor. I don't I don't think she should have that level of influence over our politics as a former as a former president, but unfortunately she does, right? And going to the second runoff, she could end up supporting Mr. Cummings. There's a high probability of that happening, right? And these are things that I think the other parties are aware of, and this is why it makes Cummings a threat, right? So it's not just about the crowd, but it's also the silent voters, the undecided voters, and also the Ellen factor, right? The last one that I would say to that is something that we tend to leave out. We think, we in a country where I believe we can, cast our vote and decide the presidency. There's also the interest of the United States, the interest of the United States, meaning that who do they think among those candidates has a better chance of protecting their interests? We don't want to make those facts, but those are behind the things that are happening behind the scene, right? Would they think that George Weah is able to protect their interests? Do they think the Boycott administration is able to protect their economic interests, or as a country? I mean, as a country to protect their economic interests, or do they think Cummings is able to protect that? So, besides the crowd and besides the voter perception, there's the silent voting, there's the Allen factor, there's the Gonglo who's going to fragment, and not just Gonglo, but the other, uh, 19 or so or 17 or so candidates there who are going to fragment the ability for one candidate to just pull every voter, right? There's that. So I think there's a lot of factors here to determine whether, the Unity Party, I mean, to just make a conclusion to say that the Unity Party, we cannot, with all these factors being surrounded with us, we cannot just say, oh, the Unity Party is going to the Unity Party has a better chance, or WIA has a better chance, or Gonglo has a better chance, or even Kami has a better chance. We have to look at the other factors that I mentioned: Gonglo, the Ellen, the American interest, and the silent voters. I don't think anybody's talking about the silent voters in this administration. I mean, in this election here. And those guys are people within the government right now that are working within the government that are tired of the this uh, the country headed headed in an economic abyss that we've been in since they took over. They're there, but they're working through the system. They're not complaining, but they know they're not in favor of the administration. You know, so there are a lot of other factors that plays into this election beyond the crowd voting. And I think if you ask me again, as I said earlier, I may be biased, and I will admit to that because I'm a supporter of Mr. Cummings. I would say Mr. Cummings has a lot of leverage in those factors compared to the rest of the other candidates on there. Again, I would say the undecided voters, and I think he would be deemed more favorable to protect the economic interests of the American in the country, whether we want to agree to that or not. They do have an interest in there. Um, and I think if Ellen were to endorse anybody, it will be him. And those three factors carry a lot of weight. Whether we want to dismiss them or not, we just think we're going to jump into the undecided. I mean, the crowd polling. Um, I think we could be mistaken of how things could turn for different compared to the majority perception. So that's my take on that.
But I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Given what you said, how could Ellen Johnson influence the votes? How could she the voting? How could she? What could she do to influence it?
Exactly, and that is a great question. So, I think you remember the last election, right?
Mm-hmm.
She had the opportunity, which everybody thought would have been the easy route to support her former vice president, right? That's the ideal thing. You guys, they're both in the same party, but that never happened. She ended up supporting Weir, right? And that had a lot of influence. She endorsed Weir, right? Even though I think Weir had a better chance, but that was a tipping point for him, right? And I think she has that same leverage as of today in terms of if we do go into the runoff to do the same thing, to pick a candidate, to say I'm going to support this person, right? And as I said earlier, I don't think she should have that much influence, but unfortunately she does. The lady is probably the most powerful woman in our country. Whether we want to believe it or not, she's silent. She doesn't say much, but she carries a lot of political capital with her. That's one of the things we don't talk about there. And the United Party people are aware of that. Everybody in Liberia is aware of that. They hit her for that, but also that's the fact. Right. So I will leave it on that. Where are the other guys?
Good question.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next thing I want us to look at, I know we're looking at data here, but the next question I want us to look at is we're an economic show where we talk business, finance, and economics. So the next question I want us to look at here, what do you think the voters are saying about their current economic condition that is going to make them decide who the next president is? Now, do you think that is something that they've taken into account in
Oh
terms of,
yeah.
hey, right, this is economically, this is where we are. 5 years ago, I was doing better. I could afford rice. I could buy rice cheaply on the market. Now I don't have that luxury anymore, right? The dollar that I had could buy more goods. Now that dollar cannot even buy it a lot anymore. Do you think they are thinking about their economic condition in this whole election, or is it just what we call herd mentality, where hey, I see Jimmy and Larry and Alex supporting this candidate, so because of that, I'm just gonna buy into that euphoria and join them to and support that candidate as well? Or do you think individually they're thinking about their economic condition over the last 5 years to make their political decision?
Definitely. It's bread and butter issues are going to influence the vote. Um, when the CDC government took over, we saw the exodus of a lot of the NGOs.
Yeah.
The NGOs were pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into the Liberian economy every year.
Yep.
With the exodus of those groups and the finance that they brought,
Yep.
they left a challenging situation to the CDC government. It was a big hole to fill, and so one would expect there were going to be some inflationary problems because of the lack of foreign capital coming into the country as before.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is where I will give praise to the CDC government. They were able to weather the storm.
Hmm.
I thought we might have seen some galloping inflation, but they were able to stabilize the currency to an extent
Yeah.
that we didn't see um, what they call it astronomical inflation.
Yeah.
So somehow they kept inflation down,
Yeah.
but the businesses in the country, we've seen closures in businesses. We've
Yeah.
seen other tightening of screws around the commercial environment,
Yeah.
and what this does is discourage business. I talk to business people all the time,
Yeah.
and they are concerned about um, the being able to get redress with the legal systems.
Yeah.
They're concerned about, so they're poised into putting more finance into the economy,
Uh-huh.
and that's not favorable. And it's the private sector that's going to grow jobs. It's the private sector
Yeah.
that's going to provide more livelihood for everybody. And this sector has not been growing under the administration. So
Hmm.
that is going to be a serious issue when people go to the ballots. It's going to be what everybody is going to be thinking about.
Hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's not it's going to be on all people's mind, and this is, if anything, this is what's going to subtract the votes because the economy is not doing as well. People are not doing as well.
Right.
Um, People can. I was in the Liberia just not too long ago. People talk about paying school fees. I mean, there's so many issues that people are dealing with right now, and so they're feeling the pinch. So yes, I believe that will influence how they vote.
Yeah. Thank you. And I want to share. I think I wanted to share in your view as well that they're going to. But when you see a whole crowd of people just in the street saying "Kush, Kush, that Kush we want," or that Boga we want, forgetting the what happened in the 12 years, the Unity Party, you wonder whether they do think about that front and center. That hey, in this race, I should be looking at who is more capable of making sure that at the end of the day, what I think every human being needs is the ability to self-actualize, right? The ability for you to pursue your dream, take care of your family, and envision yourself, have some kind of decent job, a decent paying job that pays you livable wage to take care of yourself and also the other people around you. And if those things are not happening, at least the basic services, the water, the electricity, the roads, those basic services, at least you want to see those in the society. And those are not happening. You should be, you know, doing a deeper thought process that, hey, this person that is in power or this group that was in power weren't, able to provide that for me. So the next time I go to the polls, I should be thinking about who is in a better condition or better capacity to be able to bring those fundamental things to me. Given that I can apply myself, fundamentally to be able to, if I'm able to work, to be able to work and do that. Who is in a better condition to provide that to me? I want to believe that that is what goes on into their mind. When I see these people in the streets, but sometimes you get it's kind of confusing when you see the number of people in the street that are and the political affiliation. Now, I'm not against anybody picking that prospective candidate. I think everybody have that right to exercise their franchise, but I'm usually confused as to whether they do think about those things as well. Um, and so the next question I want us to go on here is the maybe is the idea of unity, right? So the idea of unity meaning that we as a country have been into war. We have come out of war for 20, yeah, exactly 20 years on now, right? And I don't think so far I have seen a candidate who was able to unite the country in a way that, you know, kind of blur the line of that tribal division that we see in the country during this election process. I don't think I've seen the candidate that's been able to do that. Now, we know the whole process of majority rule, which is majority, whoever the majorities are decide who your president becomes. But in that, the fundamental flaws of democracy is also when majority rule, that doesn't mean the majority understand the plight of the minority. So which candidate do you think, if the a majority, they're elected by the majority, will also lead for the entire library? I mean, taking account of the minority people in the country, protecting them, the rights of the minority in our country, and making sure that they govern for the entire Liberia.
I know Councilor Gongo is somebody who's a very fair and level-minded guy.
Yeah,
I think he would be his administration of justice will be just and fair across the board. I don't think he's going to lean on any side, any biases or prejudice. I see that happening. Um,
yeah,
and I also see Simeon Freeman. He's got a
okay,
mixed group too. I don't see him being biased or anything. So they are a couple of people who would. I mean, we just want fair play. Okay, we just want fair play. That's
mhm,
all. I think every Liberian wants.
yeah,
But when you talk about bringing everybody together, uniting everybody, I've heard some statements over these elections that are very divisive.
yeah,
I do not think that's healthy. I think what Liberians, all of us, need to know that our enemy is the person who will take the vital resources of the country and use it for their personal use.
absolutely,
Our
absolutely,
enemy is the person who would treat others unfairly for any reason
right,
other than fairness to all.
mm,
Our enemy are those who want to discriminate
mhm,
for whatever reason against each other for their ethnic. Those are the enemies of Liberia, and I've served. I don't know if it's for politics, but I've heard these things during these elections,
mhm,
and it was a sorrowful because at this point of time in our history, we have to go toward unity.
yeah,
But people will use whatever they can to gain power. So um, if I were to single any one person who I think will be fair across the board, I definitely know a Council Gongo would be fair across the board.
yeah. Yeah, and that's because of his experience in the legal, uh,
Mm-hmm.
in the legal field, right? His experience as a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
his stance on corruption, right? Okay. Um, for me, I don't think collectively I've seen, uh, there may have been statement here and there in terms of, I think Mr. Cummings has been, vocal about that in terms of going to rule for the entire Liberia and saying, and that came about when they asked him about his base, that he's supposed to have a base in Maryland. He said, oh, you know what, I'm running for president to be the entire Liberia. But in terms of somebody who one articulates that message, who hones it, who delivers that, and like, I don't expect them to be like Barack Obama, right? I do not. Obama was, a class above the elite, right? But somebody who understand or who understood the history of the country, one, even if you don't want to go further back, but you understand what we came out of, and you understand, believe it or not, I hate it, but we have a tribal divide in our country that is kind of sectional, right? Who understand that aspect, but also tailor their message towards that and say, listen, guys, I am not here, like something that should be able to bring a message, that should be able to bring people to coalesce around your ideas, your political platform and agenda, to really unite people across different spectrum of the country, different area of the country, or different spectrum of the economic class. I don't think I have seen that anybody who has that what I call uh, charisma factor. That charisma factor, like the one that Jerry Rowland had, or the one that Taylor has, right? That kind of charisma way, but leverage that charisma to be able to hone the message around and really drive it towards. I don't think I've seen a candidate like really, be able to deliver on that. And this is me being fair, even me being a Cummings supporter as well. So yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think we're on the hour mark. I have one more question here, and then maybe we can go to the comments, because I think we have a whole lot in there. Um, so I know we're economic show, so it was, it was just a given that I throw in this question in there. Given what I know, you say you recently in Liberia,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen, whether you were in Liberia recently or not, or you've been monitoring the economy over the last 5 years, or even you want to go back over the last 12 years. What do you think the next president of that country should
Excellent.
prioritize?
Excellent. I love that question. And
And
this is and this
put yourself
and
in the presidential hat. Put your
this
presidential
is
hat on. If Jimmy was to become president,
our country. What we need is the private sector to grow. We need
hmm
businesses to grow. The
right?
government. We've been almost a sort of socialist type of government. The government
Thank
does
you.
everything. The government used to be
Love you, man.
if you remember a long time ago, the government was in charge of healthcare. You go to government, you go to JFK, you get any kind of medication, healthcare
Yep.
almost free.
Yep.
The school systems, okay, the government provided school education to 12th grade.
Mhm.
We've been largely dependent on government,
Yeah.
but that is not how we're going to grow.
Yeah.
The only way we're going to grow is to expand the private sector, to have businesses come up and to invite businesses, to be alluring to businesses. And that means you have to create the atmosphere that business is going to thrive. Your tax system has to be set up in a way that will invite businessmen, companies, factories to come in the country to take advantage. And for me, I think the best person suitable to do this
hmm
is Cummings, because he's been in that area for most of his career.
Yeah.
This requires people gaining confidence from investors. It requires creating conditions that will promote the business in the country. It requires having very high level political enemies like and allies like the United States. When you have when you can garner support
Yeah.
from major capital listed countries like Japan, like
Right.
Germany, like the United States,
Right.
people can come in and bring in investment to you.
Right.
Beside that, he has experience and he will bring with him
Hmm.
experience. Experience translates into competence.
Yeah.
They know how to run a business. They know how to run an organization, a very sophisticated system.
Right.
um, they understand how to run these things, so they will know if somebody is putting things in the right position. They will be able to correct it or remove them. Now, if you don't have somebody with that requisite experience, you
Uh-huh.
don't have somebody who has been in this field doing this for years and years and years, they're going to come there. They're going to want to do it, but they're not going to know how.
Thank you. Oh, man,
They're
that's
not
great.
going to know how to do it. They're going to want to,
Yeah.
but they're not going to have the ability to do it. So guess what? We're going to be back to square one.
Hmm.
Nothing much going on. So if we want to open up the economy, we want to open up the business. We want people to get jobs. We want
Hmm.
people to be able to go to school and afford things. We have to give it to somebody who knows how to create businesses.
Yeah.
But do what are we voting on? We're voting on somebody's been in the government for 40 some more years. No, we want somebody who's going to make more money, more business, more opportunities for us.
Yeah.
That's how I would vote.
Yeah. Whoa. 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 That is a brilliant take. And for me, as I said, you guys, I think I'm a fair guy, but you know, if I'm being biased, I like to put that out there that I'm being biased, so at least you don't have to question yourself. Is this guy leaning towards this person or he's not leaning? I will make it easy for you and say I'm leaning towards this person. And for me, that what you just said is and was the fundamental decision for which I support Mr. Cumming and I decided to support him because I believe as somebody who studied the economic history of the country, Liberians and Liberia has never had a chance. And the reason why I say that because at some point doing what my mom always called the normal day, you hear older Liberians call the normal days. We have money in our country, but economically we didn't do anything. Everything was concentrated in pockets, Monrovia, the Yekapa, and these other little areas. But in terms of collectively building infrastructure from the vast resources and the capital that we were generating from the vast resources of that country, we never did. So the country as a whole never had a chance. And if you go there right now, you will see that we've never been there. We've never been that a factor, right? Now, the reason why I think Cummins has and should be the next president of Liberia, because I believe this is what we need right now. You know, now if you've asked me, maybe in the next 20 years or so, he might be the president we need. Maybe not. Maybe we might be at a different stage, and we will need somebody different from a different perspective to bring us there. But right now, at this moment, this is what we need: the private sector job creation, Liberia economy. This is why, and you, for those of you that are watching, you can, if you have any Liberian economists, please bring them on the show. I would like to debate that. Our economy as a whole is not a free market enterprise, what it's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be a free market enterprise. We kind of meddle in, this corruption. Somebody want to do business here because they're not paying you this, bribe. You will suppress them. In a market, in a free market economy, you're supposed to allow what we call the best men to win, right? We don't have that. So we have a pseudo free market enterprise. That's one. Another thing you mentioned, Jimmy, which I absolutely agree with you. We have a kind of like a kind of which because it's not a free market enterprise. It's like almost a socialist economy where the government pays for everything, and you go to, like you said, you go to JFK, the government is into everything. I've I would tell you I've been to a kind of communist party country, which is Cuba, right? In Cuba, if you were not born in the 60s, you want to see what the 60s look like, just go travel to Cuba. It's like as if you're traveling back in time, and you will see it. Oh, this is how people used to live in the 60s. But we're in 2021, 2022, or 2018 at the time, right? The government, the healthcare is free, transportation is free, education is free, right? Uh, at the end of the beginning of every month, they give their citizen oil, beans, fish, uh, like food, right? However, to start business in our country is very tough. Like the kind of hoops you have to go through, and the government control everything in there, right? But education is free. People can go to school up to getting a PhD, becoming a doctor. This is why the biggest export is doctors. But you have somebody who's a medical doctor working at a hospital making 50 US dollars per hour. I mean per month, right? So even though they have that level of education, the most of the doctor they will what they hire the PhD, the math teachers, they usually get into the tourist business and help people that are coming to the country because they make more money on that, right? So I say this because this, even though we're not fully at the level at which Cuba is operating on, but that is the kind of you know way we see country that Liberia is headed to, where the government we expect the government to do everything, right? And I believe that is not a kind of system that we want in Liberia. The moment you have that kind of mentality, which I think every Liberian is driving towards, oh, we want the government to do this, we want the government to provide jobs, it becomes a problem, right? And the reason why I think Cummings makes a better case to lead Liberia into the country that we want it to be, the same reason why you mentioned. He has the experience, right? Not just creating jobs in one country. He done that all across Africa, right? And it goes back to the other reason that I gave earlier. Fundamentally, as a human being, you are now on the show here right now, right? We either have a job, we have a business, or we retire. We've worked our years, we retire, and we have a pension that we're depending on. That income from either that job, that business, or that retirement takes care of our needs fundamentally. So that allows us to meet our basic need, put food on our table, our different aspiration or ambition that we might have to be able to fund that ability. That means it allow us to self-actualize, right? Liberians coming out of schools nowadays don't have that. Not even in the 20 since 2005. They've never had that. They don't have that chance. As you said, when this president took over, all the NGOs and the little remnants of private company that we had in our country, they left. We need a president who is going to be able to bring back those enterprises, those companies in our country, where if Liberians are graduating college, you come out of college, you should be able to get a job, take care of yourself, your family, and whoever else, whatever other ambitions you have to self-actualize in our country. But unfortunately, we don't have that. The biggest problem we have is everyone that come out of college in Liberia, they gravitate towards the government, right? They gravitate
Yeah,
because the government is the end all be all of everybody's
yeah,
or educational ambitions, right? You study
hmm
political science or economics, you expect to get a job in the government because they're the bigger
yeah.
employer. That is the biggest problem we have, and I think Kami has that, not just the experience, but he has that ability to transform that country into the kind of private sector economy that we want Liberia to become. Like I said,
And
somebody
there's
there.
more.
Yeah,
There's more to that.
yeah,
There's to add to that,
right.
especially when Noel Brown made a comment. He
Right.
called to talk about. Wait a minute. In the private sector, we find different people controlling our commodities or our businesses. Foreign people. You need to understand the person who's going to transition Liberia. The question I don't really understand. What do Liberians? What do you need at this point? You need jobs. You need jobs. You need to be able to do businesses for yourself. In other words, you need to need a way to earn income and support yourself. That is what we need. All those other things we need to be able to support ourselves. So we need income, and income can either come from a job or a business. Those are only two. So you need somebody who really understands the economics of businesses and the country. Our country is right now is controlled largely by Lebanese and Indians. Most of the businesses are in the hands of Lebanese and Indians. Now, who has the requisite competence and expertise to change that, to make Liberians no longer spectators in the economy?
Yeah.
Who has the relevant experience to know how to get Liberian private businesses going to replace these foreign commercial people in our business? Who has the experience to do that?
Yeah.
Because that is what you need. We need to transition from a mercantile, foreign mercantile country to a Liberian-owned business. Who do you hear talking about Liberianization? Making Liberia, we have more certain businesses restricted to Liberia. Certain businesses, we promote Liberia. We buy Liberia. Who is promoting these ideas? That is who you need. But anyone else, anything else you base your vote on, other than somebody who will improve your economics, somebody who improve the ability to get a job, somebody who will provide a future where your children will leave school and be able to get a good living. If you're basing it on anything beside that, then you're going to get more of the same, because it requires a certain type of experience and competence to transfer that the economy to what you want. And if you're not getting somebody who has that competence, it will not happen. Period.
Perfect. So I want to add to that, and this will be something that you heard here first, because since that happened, I don't think I've spoken about it, because it's been, I thought, hopefully the campaign team was going to talk about that, and that could have been a good selling point, but nobody has been able to talk about that. And I've been, as somebody, if you're brought into a room, people don't say, "Hey, talk about this." You don't talk about that. But I think that could have been one of the biggest selling point for Mr. Cummings as far as his campaign goes and the campaign team. But I don't think uh, they've never talked about it, and I think it was one of the biggest miss, um, that I think it should have been a very pivotal discussion, that in terms of, as he went around the campaign trail or at the media, various media stations, something he should have talked about. And this was the policy roundtable that he had here in the state that I'm in, at the university here at Cambridge. I mean, Harvard University. I was invited there, right? I sat in that meeting first. We met Mr. Cummings, a meet and greet on a Wednesday. On a Thursday, I personally I think I took half a day off. I took half the day, sat in that meeting. I was invited there by the policy team, right? And I sat in that meeting, and I think it was even more assuring that this is the individual that we want for Liberia. And let me tell you why. So the policy people, I think there was probably a social media post that I think Mariah did when after that, of everybody that was in that meeting. Um, these were policy experts who have worked with, who continue to work, who still work with Paul Gagami, who've been with him since he took over and continue to work with him. These were business people that worked to have businesses in various part of Africa, right? And these are people that he knows. right? These are people that he knows that he invited and was just, hey, this is the guy, I'm running for president. I want to hear your take on it. So it was a policy roundtable, and I was fortunate to sit in on that for I think about 5 or 6 hours, right? And let me tell you how that began. And this is how I know that this is an individual who has, first knows one, the economic system that he wants in the country. If you ask any candidate right now, they can barely tell you their left or right on that. This is how I know that he knows what kind of system he wants in that country. First of all, in that meeting also as well, I also understood that he knows that his priority is jobs, but not just but jobs on every level, from the mamusu who's doing her agriculture business to the blue collar, even to creating the white collar jobs in our country. For blue collar, meaning that the different trade, for those of you who are not Liberians, blue collar meaning the different trades and, mid-sized job. The white collar meaning the your people that like dressing in suit and tie going to corporate offices. That's what I mean by that. So the people that we met with, all of them, I don't want to put their name out there. The first discussion was that when they met with Kagame, when Kagame first took over in Rwanda, he came in through military style, like most African country, right?
Mhm.
When they met with him, was that, hey, you have like you're at a transformative moment right now in the history of Rwanda. You can run this country three ways. You can run it three directions. One, you can take it and run a military style, which as you've always been doing, which you're good at doing because that's how you came to power. That's one. The second aspect of it is that you can run this as a socialist country. That's two. The third one, you can run this country as a free market enterprise. Kagame, I'm sure you guys are aware he's not an educated man, but he's very smart. The comment that he made was that, hey, I'm not educated, but I'm not stupid. I know exactly what kind of economy I want for Rwanda, right? And on that note, which was his decision, was to run a free market enterprise, meaning free market enterprise, government does not interfere with competition. If I am bringing rice in the market and Jimmy want to bring rice in the market, let the best man win. If Jimmy is competing with me on price point, if he's selling his rice cheaper than I am, if I'm selling my rice higher than him, the market will determine who has the best price, the best product, and the market will adjust for that. No government entity or administration has to come in to say, Gabriel, your rice too expensive, lower the rice price, right? So Kagame at that time made that fundamental decision that he was going to go with the free market enterprise. Some of the people in that room that day still run companies in Rwanda, biotech companies. Another guy there has a shoe company. It's his ambition is to become, the Nike of Africa, right? He wants to bring a factory in Liberia. Imagine a shoe factory right in Liberia. How many jobs that would create? So there were a lot of people in that room. Then we deliberated policies from the agricultural aspect, like I said, from the fundamental from the cooperative level, right? How do you empower people in a cooperative level to not just make produce item and sell them, but be able to produce items, sell them, and make a profit, and be able to expand in our cooperative. To, as I said, the factories, bringing factories in the country, right? We also talked about policies, economic policies, the IMF, what you should do when you take over. You know, how you gonna. One of the biggest thing, I think, one of the biggest question I was asking that is, how the money is going to be generated. You know, they even talked about tax structure. How to revamp the economy to take the revenue to make it higher, right? So in that meeting, I had a fundamental idea that if this policy election was about policies, he has by far the best policy out there. He has a better idea in terms of how to take Liberia and make it a market economy, make it an economy where there are jobs will be created, where the companies will want. His whole idea is to make his model Liberia after Rwanda. And if you know the Rwanda, the economy that Rwanda has, they model theirs after Singapore, right? So he want to model Liberia after Rwanda. Let me say this lastly, and I will end. So Rwanda, as it is, for the last 26, 27 years, they have grown from their they, just like we were from the fundamental, the basic in the frontier market. That's in the frontier market, you have the lower, the middle, and the top, right? They have grown from the bottom to the top operating country in the frontier market, right? Meaning now where they are, they have plateau at the top. The next phase for Rwanda right now is to become a middle income state, what we call an emerging market economy, right? And to do that, they brought in right now the ex-CEO of Credit Suisse, the biggest Swiss bank in Europe, to help them transition their financial system, right? That will is strengthen their financial system for foreign investors to trust it. Saudi Arabia already embarked on that. They've already invested in that. They invested 2 billion. Rwanda is building one of the biggest airport that will become the biggest airport hub in the country. I mean, in the region to become like a hub, right? So that is the kind of economy that Mr. Cummins is modeling, wants to model Liberia economy after. You know, now I would say this in terms of articulating that to the Liberian people, because our mind don't gravitate towards a higher level of thing. We look at just the peanut atom. There's kind of a little bit of loss in translation there. But I think if what was said in our policy meeting became a campaign message thereon after, this discussion in terms of politics would have been over already.
Okay,
As if Liberia were
but
gravitating towards the policy issue.
but
Yeah,
let me ask you a question,
yeah,
if you don't mind.
yeah,
If Liberians
yeah.
know that what they want is to make plenty money, let's talk our regular colloquial English. Liberians want to make plenty money. Liberians want to have a job. They want their children to be able to go to school. They want to be able to do their business so they can make more money. So if you want them jobs, you want to make more money, why are you not voting for somebody who know about job business, who know about making business, who know about bringing investors to the country to do it? Why will you go somewhere? It's just like that. I want a new clothes, and I need idea for new clothes. Why I will leave the tailor house and go to the carpenter? The carpenter don't know about clothes. The carpenter know when you're ready to fix closet, he will fix the closet so you can hang your clothes. But right now, that carpenter ain't know nothing about making clothes, and you need clothes. So why are you going to the carpenter? You expecting to help you to make clothes? The man will be telling you about making closet.
Yep.
So what is the reason Liberians are persuaded to go in a direction that does not address the problems that they have? What is persuading them?
I think that's the $1 million question for you and I. No, yeah, and that's why we're here. As I said, um, you know, I've always liked to. For me, the kind of country that I see, I want Liberia to be is exactly where I know that's a far place. Um, and I think on the meet and greet, I was the last person to ask Mr. Cumming a question on the financial system. He said, that's where we want to be, but fundamentally, this is where we are right now, right? It's a country where I did two. I like to tell people I did 2 years of high school here. When I came out, I was about 17 years old, right? For those of you who don't know my age, I'm 38 right now, right? I did 2 years of high school here. In high school, because of the age requirement, right? The age limit, you could work. You can work a certain level a number of hours, right? You're not allowed to go over 16 hours, right? I could work, right? So even though when we came, we have my aunt here bought us Payless shoes, which you can get 2 shoes for $30, right? Very cheap. I was able to work, Jimmy, while I was in high school. After high school, after class, I stay in the library for 2 hours to do my homework. From there, I would take the bus to go to work. I would work from 4 to 9 p.m., take the bus and go home 3 days a week. At the end of the week, I will have $100 in my pocket as somebody in high school.
Mm-hmm.
$100. Sometimes in a week. That's almost $400 a month I was making
That's
as
a
somebody in high school.
lot of money.
That's a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
even at the time, that's a lot of money. Right now, that's, how many high schooler can, like, what they can do. I'm not saying the pay will be equivalent, but what I'm trying to say here is that there was the jobs, availability of the jobs, right? I could work, right? The same thing in grad school. I mean, in undergrad, I worked my way through undergrad, and the same thing I worked my way through graduate school. Because of that, nobody, like in this country, nobody thinks about the government. Like the whole this system that we're in, nobody cares about the government unless come times of election. There's wars and all these things that's going on. The private sector is what drives this country. That is the kind of country we want in Liberia. Like when I said the reason why I support Mr. Kame is what I believe the kind of country that he will, the kind of economy that he will bring to Liberia, right? Because in that kind of system, the government is just a facilitator. They are just a facilitator. They don't. They're not the end all be all of your whole existence as a person, right? So that is the fundamental, reason why I support Mr. Cummings, and that is the reason why I believe, you know, even if you don't think he has a chance, like Jimmy asked you earlier, what is what is it that you need? First, identify yourself. Do you want somebody to come in and say, "Oh, you know what? We're getting a lot of aid money, and the government can distribute, they can do this thing, they can where the senators are being paid a lot of money, so they can give you have your go part and give you money here and there. They can go and buy stuff. Or do you want to have that ability where you're able to earn, work for money, earn, and be able to take care of yourself and your family? Do you want that? So fundamentally, I think I agree with you, Jimmy, is we have to, as a nation, as first start with yourself as a person. You have to determine what is it that I want in a president. What is it first that I need for myself? What is it, which candidate actually embodies those values and those things that I need, is able to deliver that. Then think bigger beyond yourself. Is that the same thing that the rest of the country needs? And that's how you determine your candidate into. But don't go to the point where hey, I see Jimmy and maybe Alex and Dennis supporting this person without any clue as to why they are supporting that candidate, without any fundamental, without even having a good debate with them as to why they think that I just jump behind it and say that's the person I'm supporting, or because they have a good slogan, or because that person is popular. You are not just doing yourself a disservice, you're doing your future self a disservice, you're doing your future generation a disservice, and you're doing the rest of your citizen, your fellow citizen in our country a disservice. Because in as much that you don't think your vote matters, it does matters in a collective lens. So I will leave it on that. Jimmy, if you have anything to add, we can do that, or we can jump into the comments here.
Okay, I mean, I would just like to leave this on the table.
Right.
Liberians, we're going to vote. What are you voting for? Are you voting for somebody who you want to look at like your pa, somebody who been around long time? Or are you voting so that you will have more money in your pocket? Your children will have a better future. You will have more businesses coming there. You will see more money in the country. If you are voting for that, then you have to go with the person who already is experienced in business. Because just like anything, just like a doctor, if you don't know anything about medical teaching people, you cannot do it. And the person who has one of the persons who have the most experience in building an economy, turning businesses around, is Cummings. Okay. I also see a couple of other people in that race that have some business experience, like Simeon Cole.
Yeah.
Right. But if that is what you want, if it's money you want to make, if it's business, if you want to do business, if you tire with Lebanese controlling everything around you, you need to see more Liberians doing this business. You need to see the foreigners who taking things out of our country for nothing. You tire eating Ghana jello rice at our own airport. Then you have to vote for the person who said, from now on, Liberians will do this thing, nobody else. You have to vote for somebody who's promoting Liberianism. Nothing else will suffice. All the other things you're voting for, that's not what will change your existence. Your existence will be the same. You'll just have a different person.
Yeah.
So
Let me say this
that's
one
all
last thing.
I got to add for.
Let me say this one last thing, then we jump to the comments. So in that policy meeting, and this is how I know Mr. Cummings really want Liberia to be a partaker in the economy. All those business people that wanted to come do business in the country, just in Rwanda right now, 75% of the companies that are established in Rwanda are controlled by Liberians. I mean, the Rwandans, right? He asked that same question, right? But that was one of the fundamental questions he asked. He said, we have to make sure Liberians are in managerial position. We have to make sure that they are owners of these companies in the country. And one of the guys in there actually said, in Rwanda, you establish a company there, 25% of it is to the the company, the foreign directors, and 75% of it is owned by the Rwandan. Not only that, Rwanda are in leadership position as well, right? So, and he asked that question to make sure that, hey, if this is when I come to power, this is the same structure that I want. Not just, hey, a foreign company come here, they establish it, they use Liberia as a front, but in reality, they're not part, they don't have equity share in our country. But he wanted to make sure that once that happens, Liberia will have equity. That's the kind of structure that he wanted in Liberia. As I said, I wish, the policy team would have, come, or the campaign team would have come up with a message around that, and really hone that home, because it was a brilliant 6 hours deliberation that, from a policy higher level, low level policy standpoint to a higher level policy standpoint, that encompasses every level of the economy, job creation, and the kind of country, the priority that he wanted to what he wanted to prioritize in the immediate, short term, and long term standpoint. As I said, we took notes. He and I sat right next to him. We took notes back to back, front page, from the next page to the next page, front to back. The entire notepad that they were given to both of us was filled. That's how much note we took, even though that meeting was being recorded. Right. That tells you that's the kind of individual that he is, in terms of, he wasn't just sitting there that, hey, this meeting is about me, so I'm just going to sit here and allow these guys that work for me to take notes. No, he had, if I think the picture has it as my profile picture, toe pen to pen, taking notes, taking points. Even though the meeting was being recorded, even though all the policy teams were in that meeting, he could have said this guy could take it. That's how kind of hands-on of a person. That's from that meeting, I respected, a different level of Mr. Cummings. That he's somebody who participates, not somebody who just sit in, and point fingers, say do this, do this, do that. But he participated. He took copious notes, and I mean front to back. But let's jump into the comment section. We are 3 days away from election, so. All right, so this is Martin. Okay, I think this question was for you. What's happening in the country? We're outside. Okay, we are your ANC CPP folks. You said, where
Yeah.
are your ANC and CPP folks? I think they
Yeah,
didn't
they
join
said
the party.
where are the folks? I
Yeah,
guess he wants to see more other people on there.
yeah,
I'm not sure
yeah. I think
what
this
he's
is
looking for.
the same guy again. The same question. And Dr. Paibo says, on the 10th of this month, Liberians should make the right choices in choosing their leaders to run the country, or else it will run itself amok. I agree with you. I think this one is for you. I think this guy follow your show with Jimmy. I mean, with Gay Man and then the other crew.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Dr. Paibo again. He said, I predict a runoff between CPP and Unity Party. Ooh, he rules out the ruling party. That's good. Whatever the case, let us avoid violence because violence begotten by violence will lead us all into a pit of violence. Absolutely. Statistics are only numbers that can change. Hmm. So this person is literally saying, based on the statistics that we were talking about, those are only number. Anything can happen, pretty much. Royalty, I think she's from the YouTube. Yeah, on the YouTube. The same person again. She said, based on the numbers, there's no way we will win as long as the numbers stay consistent and the people has chosen who they want. I doubt if we will change at the last minute unless they cheat. So she think that they have already locked in terms of decision based on the numbers. This is why he or she, yeah, it looks like he, I mean she. Uh, Sorry if I'm getting your agenda wrong. I hope you're not American to fight me on that. Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Paibo again, he said the 20 issue here is that the theory of populist choice overcoming the theory of oh man, I love this Pape. The theory of rational choice. You know, um, there are politicians today running for office, some with political science degrees, who are confusing a well-organized political system with political propaganda. A lot of sensitization or reschooling is needed for these people the what regarding what is referred to as the political economic of a state. Man, the Papa is going to political economy here. Liberia need a realistic political economist to govern our country, a person with knowledge. Who? Yeah,
I
any
agree.
comment on this? This is deep. Um, and here's what I agree with him on here, and this is proven. Human beings as a whole, we do not make rational decisions, and I think that's what his first comment here is I think it's the first comment or second sentence is referring to here. We do not make rational decision. This is why if you look in any part of society, we're nudged into making right decision. But human being as a whole, we don't make rational decision, um, and that is actually needed to allow us to make the right decision collectively. So, okay, this is man, this Pape man commenting here. He said, "Look, my Liberian people, both economics and politics bedfellow and relate to critical behavior and rational decision making of who is to lead Liberia as president or in parliament." I think we have this person from YouTube. He said, "Question: why is George Weah refusing to answer question about setting up a war crime court to investigate?" Uh, we're just running through this comment. So if you see anything you want to respond to, please do. What could possibly happen if we get of the front runners, if one of the front runners fail to reach the final? Um, what does he mean if one of the front runners? Does it mean besides in the opposition? I mean, it just happened to be one of the opposition will reach you know the will get into the runoff. That is a fact. The same person again. If
Yeah,
we
yeah. What I was going to comment quickly on the front runners.
right.
A lot of people think that the CDC government and the UP are the front runners at this point. So
Hmm.
they're asking, what if we see somebody else maybe in the
Oh,
CPP or
okay, okay. Hmm. I mean, that could
that
be
is the upset.
right.
That is the upset a lot of us are looking forward to.
Hmm.
We're looking to see this upset,
Yeah.
and maybe when it reaches that bad, like it would dawn on Liberian people that either these people cannot solve their problem, and maybe that's what will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I keep saying, I think I said it at one point during the show that I think Mr. Gongolo would be the dark horse here in the race.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully he can, make some, if I were in a running right now, I would start being strategic that, hey, if we do go into the runoff, if I am ahead of you, I will support, you should support me, or if you're ahead of me, I will support you. Start making alliances right now for the runoff, um, have that discussion. Whether they agree with it or not, at least you've planted that seed. That's what I would do, from a strategy standpoint. Um, if we had lost the presidential election, will he and his corruption politician group be investigated for their wrongdoing? That determines, it's all based on who becomes the next president, whether they do want to investigate
Correct.
them, right? Yeah, he said people are looking at the crowd and jumping to conclusion. What could happen if we get a new party in the runoff? Uh, uh, okay, Larry, this is a comment from Larry, so he had to leave. Um, he said, Comey offered a ton of competency with no excess baggage to weigh down his administration or put him on bad terms with the U.S. Yeah, I think that's when I was talking about the interest of the U.S. being, looked at in terms of who we believe should support that will be able to support their economic interests. Believe it or not, it's there. He said, okay, he responded to that in Piable here again. He said, Edison and I thought we were friends. trying to get the crazy people to chase me for jailing their friends and family.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
because Edison Paji will say he will run for president.
oh,
Then he said,
really?
"Oh, but wait now. I told you and myself a friend. You're trying to get crazy people to chase me for jailing
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
tell you the truth, if we're going to clean up Liberia, if that Liberia is going to stop in corruption, and this message is
Uh-huh.
for all Liberian people, if we're going to stop this corruption, we're going to have to put some people, everybody, not some, but everybody in jail. Not oh that my brother, or that my cousin, or that my countryman. Everybody, you steal, you go to jail. Are we ready for it? That's what we mean. That's the decision we got to
a
make
big
at the
question.
ballot box.
Yeah. And this is Noel Brown. He said, my brother, those politicians do what they are doing are not stupid. They know it's supposed to be, they know what they're doing. They're not stupid. They're just hateful black sellouts against all human beings. Man. And Noel again says, sir, you cannot have the private sector hiring or creating jobs when the country is being controlled by those outsider. How many black business are in control of the country commodities?
This,
That's a fair question.
this is fundamental.
Right.
This critic is very fundamental. He's saying, wait a minute, right now, the Indians, the Lebanese, whoever they're the one who got all the control of business. You cannot create because those people will just do things for their business. They're not going to do things in the interest of Liberians.
Mm-hmm.
The only people who will do things in our interest is ourselves. So
I was
you
like,
need a person there who said, no. Their way will do this business, not for you to give me something, then I'll let you do business in my country. No. This thing is going to benefit my Liberian people. And if you can't do it this way, in fact, some of y'all can't do this business. Only for Liberian people will do it. And now we're not letting you in this business. And only when we have a person who is ready to go back for us, who ready to say this thing has to benefit my Liberian people, not you putting money in my pocket, because soon somebody become president, all those Lemony guys, they come together, all the business they come together and they gain small thing.
Mhm.
Get her small thing.
Yes.
That's what it'll do. Like the
Yeah.
kafu. In our we call it kafu. You get that thing and you say, hey, this one for me and not for the country. You
Yeah.
lie. It's not for you. First of all, they didn't give it
Yeah.
to you because of you. They give it to you because of the position you hold. So they are buying you.
Yeah.
And so you can't act in our interest.
Yeah.
We
Let,
need
let me let
somebody
me
who, when they give that money, remember to tell you.
yeah. Let me give another as I said, that policy roundtable was a lot that happened in there. And just on this Noel's comment that he made, let me tell you another discussion. So the port right now in Liberia is controlled. I'm sure you guys are aware about it, right? And that was a lady, a Liberian lady here locally was in there too. She brought up one of the questions about that. What are you going to do about the port? And this is how you know that somebody who is thinking on an equitable level, that when I mean equitable level playing field, that you don't want to just be strangulated by one port as the main port. You say if that port is controlled, we're going to build another one in Buchanan. There's the Buchanan. There's we can build another port, meaning that he doesn't want an economy where at one person, because you're controlling this port, you're strangling it, you're charging people high fees, and it becomes you have that bottleneck of export that Liberian can get their goods in a place, and you have that control over it. So this is how I know that this is not somebody who's just talking in the air. He knows it strategically. He looked at those different areas, because this lady was a local person who was invited there as well, and she asked that question. She said, the ports are controlled by this group of people. What are you going to do about that? And he've already, as I said, he has already thought about that. That you know, there's the port of Buchanan that can be developed. So that means we will have two ports, right? One of the things he talked about is going to a flat rate. So I think he always talks about that. That if we have 10, we'll charge a flat rate. What is it, 24 container or 44 container? We'll have a flat rate. So there's 40 containers in that on the shores there at the port. We know if we're charging $1,000 per container, we should have 40,000 in the Liberian account. No halfway about it as to, oh, this one is there, you have to pay. So he has thought about that, decentralizing the control first of the port, and most importantly the economy of Liberia. There's another comment he made about in terms of airport, but I will leave that out for now. So man, this guy's, I don't think this is our first time having him here. He's busy. He said building roads isn't jobs creation. Building houses isn't job creation. Taking control of the rubber, iron ore from the Indians will help stabilize the economic status. This guy, you see, this is somebody people I can talk about as the silent voters, sound people, but they don't like to show their face, so they know they know what they're doing, they know what they want, but they're not in the crowd. This is my first time seeing this guy on the show, but I think he's making a lot. Not I think he's making a lot of sense. Um, I think it aligns with what most of the things you've been saying on here, Jimmy. You know. So he said Liberians are not stupid people. It is a system that is causing Liberians to suffer. Stop following those crooked politicians. Um, but I would, he said, but I would say African Africans have some of the world biggest sellout blacks so-called leadership. That is true, man. This guy is going to history. Look at the coup out of country, the coup. Look at out, the cooped out country. Maybe the coup in those countries. That's what he meant. How many of the African leadership leaders are supporting these coup? Uh, those leaders who were brought in by the coup, right? And uh, man, he's going into this thing. What do you think about his comment on the sellout of black people? This guy's been busy on here.
You know, this is a reality,
Hmm.
and the Liberians got to understand this and face the reality. A lot of times we find people, they are in the trenches with us, they're standing for us in
Hmm.
the cause of the people. We need the people to fight for us. We need these rights. These people are not treating us good. They talk all the talk.
Hmm.
When they get there, soon the first person greases their hand, they turn their back. When they see it's more convenient to jump on the side with a powerful people, they leave us. We who elected them, they leave us, they leave our party and go join them.
Uh-huh.
So this happens not only in Liberia, it happens all over. We getting people, they say they're fighting for us. We believe them that soon they get in position. The first person that bribed them, the first person that's made no mind of people did. This is how we do. Just forget about those people.
Yeah.
They forget about us and leave us dry. So he calling they are sellouts. So you get them little money, they will sell you and myself for nothing.
Yeah.
Aren't we tired of people who say they for us, and then soon they get there, we see them making themselves rich,
Yeah.
building, all their friends them building, and we still poor. Aren't we tired of that? When are we going to get somebody who will not do that? There's only one way you can be sure of somebody who will not do that.
Hmm.
The person who already has. Because when you put a poor man somewhere, where you thought good, that way he can eat, unless
Yep.
you have somebody of extreme integrity,
Yeah.
like Gongolo there.
Hmm.
You put a poor man there, they will do the same thing. So
Yeah.
put somebody who already got money,
Yeah.
who is going to do that, will go and fight for you. Even in this country, you don't see poor men becoming president in this country.
Yeah. No, I don't.
So we have to be wise because our own men there, well, we two are laying out on the floor in the room. The day he began get their position, he forgot that we're laying down on the floor.
Yeah.
Because right now he laying down in air mattress and in the big hotels. And here else, we're still laying on the floor. We are those those are the one he called cop out. They
Yeah.
just forget about us, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. And it makes the case again as to why we should put somebody there who has already, you know, established, as opposed to putting somebody there who,
Thank you.
you know,
We need to put somebody who is established. You put any kind of man who even get a house, he even get a room. What do you think he would do?
yeah,
Liberian, we gotta be smarter this time, man.
yeah,
What do you think he would do? He
yeah.
would do the first person who greases his hand. He would sell you and myself for little or nothing.
Why you still sleeping on the floor? Somebody already not
You're
saying.
right. Thank you.
Noel again said 50% of the women in Rwanda, 50% of the women in Rwanda are in the government. Over 50% of the females in Rwanda are very educated people. Liberia needed better educated people to manage their country. That is true. Yeah. This person is a dirty shame. The deal with the UAE is beyond disturbing and shouldn't happen. Oh, that's he's talking about the carbon. I think they called that off. The carbon trade deal with what they were selling
First
10%
of
of the
all,
land.
if we are going very good. In fact, there's a show that coming on in 2 hours,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, about the village of Norway. Norway village. Some of y'all are too young to know, but Noe Village was a small town in Mono River Union. And the people have been mining the iron ore. And they were not disposing of it the proper way. They were just building it up. And then one day, that big mountain they had just been putting the mineral waste, it fell on the whole town, killing
Yes.
hundreds of people.
It's in Liberia, right?
Yes, it's called
Yes.
Noe
Yeah, yeah,
Village,
yeah. Yep.
killing hundreds of people. So what is the lesson we take from there? Well, first of all, the government never talk about it plenty. But this was the direct fault of the mining company. They were not properly disposing of the mineral waste.
Hmm.
So we need, when these guys go into these agreements, we need the people who know about these things to be there. Because you just go sign a paper, behold, you're bringing disease to us. You're bringing some kind of bad disease. You're getting small money. You agree to take that diet, not knowing that diet has disease. So you finish killing us for what? Little or nothing. So that's why he said the deal with the UAE. How many of our experts, our environmental protection people, all those people, have they look at that deal before you signing it? We need to be very careful. We can't take a little bit of money that our generation, our grandchildren die because we took small money from some kind of country. The people think we're stupid. We take their dirt, their waste, and they give us small money, and then our children start growing up with 5 ears and 3 noses. We say, what happened to the children? But that thing you brought here, what you got a little money for? So we need to
Yeah.
we need our people. We need to sign deals, and before we sign a deal, we need somebody who knows about it to examine the deal and determine whether we should do it or not before we do
Yeah.
it.
So I think I remember I asked the question whether Noah, whom Noah was, but I think he revealed his identity here. Where is it? Uh, he said, "My brother, I'm from Barbados." Man, it said the guys from Barbados watching. Well, uh, thank you for watching from Barbados. And he made a follow up to that. He said, "Remember that Liberian had a president from Barbados, President Arthur Barkley." That's true. Yeah, that is true. I am from where he was born. Wow. Thank you for that historical context, Noel. And I guess we can say Liberia is your second country, so you're welcome there anytime. You know, there's that connection. In I don't know, maybe I have to go read up on what part of Barbados uh, Mr. Barkley came from. So at least next time I visit, I can stop. I can
But
stop there.
Barbados is just a relatively small island.
Yeah,
Edwin Barclay also was from there, so it's just a small island.
yeah.
We
He
have
said
we
he,
have a whole group of Liberian people that came from there.
yeah, he
They
said
set
it's
up a whole
a,
group
to-
of them.
a town of nowhere. A town of nowhere is like the
No
island,
way. Yeah, Monkey
the island,
Island
Monkey
in
Island in
Marshall
Marshall
County.
County. Okay, wow. This person know a little bit about the history of Liberia. That's crazy. Liberia isn't even stopping illegal logging. Selling sample land for climate change is horrible. It's a horrible idea. All right, so I think that brings us to the end of the comments here. Um,
Okay.
we should be wrapping up. Um, I know we kind of started with the data from the NEC in terms of really trying to look at the data, uh, the voters' perception, and every other policy item that may or may not be out there. Looking at the candidate to try to project or predict who we think has a better chance of winning, or who should be the, who do we think should win the election, or we even talked about who Liberia needs right now as a candidate. So there's a lot we talked about, and we pivot towards our normal thing we can talk about in terms of the economic side, in terms of uh, what should be the priority of any president who comes to power, whether Liberians are thinking from an economic lens as to how the economy has been performing so far under the current president, or even if they want to go back the last 12 years. So there's a lot we've talked about. Um, so we weren't all over the place. We kind of have a trend that we follow here. With all of that, Jimmy, I know we're wrapping up now. I would like to hear your closing comment on what we talked about today, and you can take it from any angle and go at it.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
So we are faced with these elections Tuesday.
Right.
And we see a lot of people have already taken sides, and they're ready to vote. But the question I want to ask each and every Liberian who will be voting, is this your vote for your own economics? That you know that this person you will vote for will improve your grandchildren and your children's life? Or is it a vote to be member of the crowd and dancing who say they want to remove somebody? Or is this a vote for your party because all of y'all are in a party, so it's a vote for the party?
Mm.
Liberians, we need to vote for our children. You see, what we do now will affect what happens to our children. We can't expect anything to change if we don't change it. So our vote on Tuesday is a vote for your children. So if you only vote for your party, that means you don't care about what happened with your children. If you only vote because the man will win, but he doesn't know how to fix the economy, so your children will benefit, that means you vote for somebody to win, but he doesn't know how to fix the economy. You have to vote for somebody who you know will change the economy, will bring businesses, make the country in a way that people will be able to make money for themselves, and everybody will start be able to earn their own money, and nobody will be just taking bribes, and we're living in the same condition we were living in before.
Yeah.
That's who we need to vote for. Vote for our children, to change for our children, not for party, not for popularity and be with a group, but somebody who will change the future for our children.
Brilliant. Yeah, and for me, I think is something that I've always been saying is that, and I stand on that absolutely, that I don't care even if it's me supporting this candidate and the rest of Liberia is supporting that candidate, is going against that candidate. The decision that I make are fully fundamentally on my values as a person. What I Those value meaning that I don't just want, and this is how I believe we all should be thinking. Not, I don't just want that country where I'm the only person who's benefiting, or my children or my family are the only people that are benefiting, right? I want a country where if I am doing good, eventually, if I'm doing good, I'm walking out of that door every day. The next person, the neighbors that I'm seeing, I want that same lifestyle for them, right? I want that same lifestyle for them to make sure that they are doing good as well, right? I'm voting because the same future I see for myself, I see it for my neighbor. If I'm able to buy a couple of rest every day and put food on my table, send my children to school, have a job, I want the same thing for the neighbors and the future of my children, right? In the same way you guys should be thinking, not just this, you know, I am part, like Jimmy said, you know, you should not be looking at it as a party allegiance that because you are in this party, so that means you just by default just have to support that candidate, even though you know they're not capable enough to produce to lead the country where it's supposed to be, right? So you should be thinking one, not just about yourself, but your neighbors, the future of the country, and most importantly, if you do decide to have children, your children or your family or the people, the next people that will come after you. So not just something that you think about just for yourself, but yourself holistically first, your neighbors, and the future of your children in our country, right? If you are doing good and nobody, other people around you are not doing good as well, fundamentally, it's only a matter of time before they start looking at you. Why is it you're the only person doing good and we are not doing good as well, right? That creates a lot of problem. That's not the country we want, right? Lastly, I would say, you know, in this country, if I always like to send Liberia back to the history. If you read the history of Liberia, it's full of disappointment and corruption and everything that you see right now. Go read your history; it will make sense to you as to why we are where we are. We have to vote in a president who is able to make each and every one of us self-actualize, meaning that we should not be graduating thousands of students every year out of university and they just lounging around in the community, in the country, no jobs, lounging around, no trade to better themselves. There's no, look at yourself as a whole, but also look at yourself regionally. How are the rest of the people in the region, the Sierra Leone, the Ivory Coast, the Guinea, the Ghana, the all of those countries around you, how are their citizens doing? Right? You should be able to look at yourself in that lens and question why is it that we're now competing regionally? You know, and that self-actualization is the reason why you should look at the candidate that's able to bring that to you. Government, as I said, and I will always say that, and I will stand by that, should be a facilitator, right? They should not come in the way of you establishing the business. If they come in, the only thing government is supposed to be doing is some of the things is, hey, I'm not cheating Jimmy, and Jimmy is not cheating me. Jimmy is not robbing me, and I'm not robbing Jimmy. Or you know, there's no exploitation or cahoot between businesses to you know to in terms of price scheming. That's a whole different thing. We call it antitrust, where people collude, right? To facilitate and create the environment where innovation thrive, people thrive, where people are able to come out of schools and take risks and create jobs and create the economy and create a society that they want to create, and government just be the regulators. That's the kind of country you want. You don't want the country that we had in Ellington. I usually hear most people talk about it is, oh, during Ellington, at least the senators and the representatives used to get paid on time. So at least they were able to buy stuff from all when we selling our late business and they can buy stuff. That is a dependent government, meaning that you, you meaning that your only point of existence is coming from that's if those people get paid on time. What about you creating job and growing that business? You know, what about you being able to get a loan out of the bank and expanding that business? What about you like advancing yourself, self-actualizing, right? Instead of a that is the kind of president we need right now. And I can tell you, people in the diaspora can tell you, as one of my favorite, Papa can say that Mr. Barnes, he said like the people in the diaspora are the 16th county of Liberia, and they are the middle class. I can tell you Liberia is not doing well because of the amount of people in Liberia who ask people here for data, money here and there, and how dependent upon us that country is. We don't need that. We don't mind taking care of people back home because we have family, but we want a country where those people in our country are able to build to their self, to self-actualize and create the economy that we want. And for me, I will stand by that. I believe there is no better candidate in that race than Mr. Cummins. Despite the crowd size you guys are talking about and all of these other things, I think he is uh, well experienced, capable. His policies, as I said, I've sat in on them, so I'm able to talk to you about that, to be able to transform that country. That is my take. each and every one of you have your take. I hope on Tuesday you vote according to your values and are able to live with those values, and make sure that when your children ask you later on in life, if you do have them, or when later on they grow up, they you know you are able to tell them why you vote on that and be able to live with the consequences. That is my take for now. Thank you for joining us, and it's been a pleasure. We enjoyed the comment, and as we always like to say it on here, we are not, we don't present ourselves as expert. We just come out here to discuss certain things we're expert in, but not all of them. But we're here to learn. By teaching, you also learn as well. So it was a pleasure being here with you, and we will see you guys next Saturday, same time, same place. Um, and as we always like to say, regardless of where you believe, whether we're on the right side of politics or we're on the wrong side of politics, there's one thing you can never take away from us. It's the fact that we are all Liberians. And whether you're not Liberian, you come to Liberia, we'll all see you as Liberian as well. So we will leave you with that for now, and we will see you Saturday, as the French people would say, samedi.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Israel, USA, all we want. Liberia, oh. Israel, USA, all we want. Liberia, Liberia.